You're listening to Tabooed Talk.
Hi, and welcome to another episode of Tabooed Talk. And today we have, wait a minute, my name is Mervan Thompson. I'm the host for this episode. And today we have Micheleina Charles-Hazelle. She is a teacher and a blogger in St. Kitts Nevis. She teaches with the government of St. Kitts and Nevis and not a private school. So I'll let her tell you a little bit more about herself. But the little I know is that she's an art teacher. Mm-hmm. And I remember when you went in for Miss St. Kitts and Nevis. No, we don't have to talk about it. But that's my first memory of you, I think. Okay. Yeah, that was before you were teaching, right?
Yeah, I was like...
That's where you came, Michelle. Man, even remember what position you come.
Came last.
I just remember.
Last. And that's what you want to tell people first.
No, no, love. I, being a pageant girl, I come last in shows too. It's like...
It happens.
Exactly. Yeah. So I didn't even know your position. Like, I just remember you being one of the contestants.
We had an amazing queen, and then we had Abigail Leiba. She saw Abigail Jeffers. A couple first runner-up, and Judy Dupont Purple. She came
right. Yeah.
Ian Tavian was our queen. She reigned well. She became a regional queen, and she still has that queenly aura about her. We were an amazing bunch, Rolentia. We just had fun, and we created a lifelong bond. So I come last, but it was a meaningful life experience.
It was.
Yeah.
I think all the shows are, but that ain't what we come to talk about. Okay. But thank you so much for that. That was a little bit of history. Thanks.
History. She's like, live history now. Okay.
So we'll continue telling us about yourself, because I know you to be an art teacher, and you know what? Let me set the tone for it. It's the fact that you've recently launched your blog, and to me, what the blog is about is pushing for teachers and being the voice of teachers, and being teachers are always in the community, but the way in which, Micheleina, you're doing it now, it's new. And maybe it's because I'm young, but the way in which you're doing it, I don't know if it has been done before. I don't think it has been done before, the way in which you're doing it. So that's just the platform on which we're setting this episode. But tell us about yourself.
So my name is Micheleina, affectionately known as MCH. I'm a teacher by heart. I love it. A community advocate. I love the concept of care. And my personal motto is, just a little bit of goodness has the potential to help a lot. And though I would love to take credit for being a voice of teachers, and probably a voice of teachers in my generation, but it was done before. We had Willie Dorr, who started the Teachers Union in St. Kitts and Nevis and represented St. Kitts and Nevis regionally. And then we had the famous Washington Archibald,
right,
who the high school is named after, my alma mater. And he was definitely a critical voice of all things tradition and education and social commentary. And I know Bonson William has a book, so to be written in the record among those great men, I would consider myself one of the young women and the voice of teachers in my generation to advocate for care for teachers and the importance of teachers in nation building, the importance of classroom in nation building, and reimagining the classroom, because our communities are spaces for learning as well.
So definitely let's start there. Communities being spaces for learning. Like, of course, we know learning doesn't just take place in a classroom, but I swear every day Micheleina posts about some interaction she has with somebody in the community. And one of those posts that comes to my mind now is the one where you went jogging or running, and you saw two boys in the hills of St. Peter's, I think. I think there's usually a cow in that area or something.
It was at Lee's level.
Okay.
So that's Boyd's area. Yeah.
Right, that's what comes to mind now. And I think they were on a bike, or were they walking? I think
one was on a donkey. Yeah, well, that completely.
So yeah, so like just that in that moment, whatever you were able to impart with them, and then you talking about your late grandmother, Ivy, and you know all that you posted about her, and it just gave me a newfound respect, I guess, for interacting with
The community.
an older person. Yes. Yes. I don't know if it's something that's really talked about. Like, and it's sometimes when you're only in this situation is when you realize the heaviness of the situation.
Well, my IV was an experience that I did not like at first. I didn't ask for it. I just went, I was that grandchild that, I went just as I went. And one day I went by her and I realized she wasn't well. And so we ended up in the hospital. And then the doctor started talking to me like I was take care of. And I was like, wait. Oh. Then I realized I had to be her carer. And it was a very challenging experience because I had a different agenda for my time. And then I got this opportunity to spend with my grandmother, which was, in a way, spending time with myself and getting to know a part of myself through her, and having that relationship that informs elderly care because it's something
Right.
that I was never exposed to. And what she did was amplify my voice by sharing her life with me. So writing for me was a bit of catharsis. It was therapeutic. It was, Lord, I just done with the Ivy. And Ivy was like very cantankerous. Like when people die, you say all these good things about them. Ivy was, whoo, mercy. She was mercy and grace and a prayer we used to have to on site, we would start to go at it. At first I was like, she just don't like me. And then eventually I started realizing that this is the way that she loves me. And in caring for her, I had the opportunity to go to all the different institutions in St. Kitts that are affiliated with Care for the Elders and see so much of the poverty, the emptiness, the lack of compassion, the compassion. And I thought, why are we not talking about this? Because the age population they're there. They belong to us. And they have issues and they have victories and they're complex and they are humane. Why are we not humanizing them? Why don't we see them? What is your grandmother like? Because mine is like this. She tell me I teach she money. Like I was always thieving Ivy money for Ivy, when in truth and in fact she would hide the money and not
forget where she
forget where
put
she
it.
put it. And she forget where she put it equates to I went to her she think. In the church, she brought me back to the church in a way that was compassionate. And in a way where the church became a service provider for me, because being a service provider for Ivy, you became a service provider for me. So she reintroduced me to a different relationship with the church, especially the Methodist church. They have like this amazing service around their elderly and shut-in that I am and will forever be grateful for. So I got to have a functional relationship with the church, with the hospital, with the community center, with the different charity groups. I find our elders are a part of the scape of St. Kitts, but they're almost always invisible.
Right. Definitely. Definitely. I can kind of some of what you said resonates with me because I've never really had to deal with an elder per se. So just now when you asked what is my grandmother like, I have no idea. Like I remember meeting my grandmother by father's side. How many years ago? And that she just happened to be on island. I think she was on a cruise and it stopped by in Nevis when I was living in Nevis during that time. And outside of that, I have no idea what she's like. Like if she stood in front of me now, I wouldn't be able to say, "Oh yeah, hey granny." Like I can't. So, and my grandmother by mother's side, maternal grandmother, she passed away in like 98 somewhere there. So, and I was born in 93. So I have sharp memories that I don't remember of her, but I have pictures. So I'm able to reference her through pictures, but I have no idea who they are. I happen to have to deal with an elder person through an acquaintance, and it was eye-opening. It was, yes, 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 yes. It was like everything about it. And the fact that you mentioned the elderly program for Methodist and so on, I saw that. And I was like, wow.
And to
And
look
then,
forward to it.
yeah.
Everything is a dress up. when you have an elder for them, everything is a dress up. Going to the doctor is a dress up. The market is a dress up. Church, everything is a dress up. Somebody coming is a dress up.
So yeah, I realize in those moments, and generally in that moment of helping the person to care for their person, the fact that you mentioned that they're invisible and that's when you see, like, why isn't this in place for all the people, like outside of 869 access? I think it's like, okay, so what busing service, what shuttle service is for the elderly? Like,
How
how
are
they
they a
supposed to
part
get
of the
around
national agenda as well?
that too?
How are the elders a part of the national agenda? I know recently there has been a ministry of
I was just about to
there
touch
has
on
been
that.
a ministry
Of
dedicated to the elderly care and
persons with,
differently
yeah,
able. So
disabilities and stuff, yes.
I'm not sure of the exact wording, but I'm very impressed by that.
What are you looking forward for from that ministry? Let me make sure I get that
What I'm
ministry.
looking forward for is real care and support for the carer. The elders that continue to live at home, I would like to see support for the carer, because in order for an elder to live at home, they generally need support. And sometimes it's not a family, and even when a family is available, it's one or two persons giving care. So I would like for improved services. So, for example, I know social development, from time to time, they come home if you're on the list or registered, and they would help you care for your elder, bath them, medication. But all of it is not done at the same level.
Right.
Everybody doesn't get the same quality of care. So a consistency in the quality of care.
Definitely, because then dealing with the elder person and their friend, well, my acquaintance, it's like they got their own doctor, and then you cycle through doctors because doctors are overloaded, and honestly they can't, some of them are unable to provide the attention to
come home, to give home visits.
Yes.
Or even doctors coming from the community centers or the hospitals to give real home visits. Sometimes you only get a nurse or nursing assistant. Sometimes they're so frustrated because you're
and
overwhelmed.
they have to walk. Micheleina, they have to. Micheleina.
I know.
And it's not just one patient a day or something, you know. Michi is
a lot.
And they have to walk.
And cleaning a sofa to eat.
Girl.
Dressing a foot is not easy. Turning bathing is not easy. And sometimes you have their primary caregiver having like a full-time job. So I used to have to get up at 4, cook. And of course she gonna complain that my food ain't taste good and I can't cook.
You can't put certain things in the food because of their conditions. Lord of mercy.
She's not going to say, oh, my granddaughter, didn't put no salt and she didn't put no gravy. She'd be like, she can't cook. And she'll tell everybody, she can't cook. And she won't give me the food. She's going to tell my granddaughter, love me, can't cook. And so what I would like to see is education. Education to the community and to the carers, especially about how to care for these people. Like we have we have less than 5 nutritionists in St. Kitts.
Oh really?
Yeah. And then you have kidney disease, you have hypertension, you have sugar, you have all kind of other things, and eating and the way you eat is a big part of wellness and care. but you don't have enough professionals to service the elderly
To
and
influence
those,
that.
and those people that need care because they're suffering from some ailment. So I would like to see education in terms of how do we provide daily care towards wellness, improved professionals that are able to give nutrition assistance. I'm not sure if I'm saying it right, but we need more nutritionists. We need more vehicles so that they could go from home to home without actually being tired. Because when you're done work
Correct.
from day to day,
Girl.
the sun hot, the rain
Girl.
coming, you're tired, and you still gotta put labor on this person. So
And if you run out of whatever bandages you might need
you
for
forget.
XYZ, Lord, you have to go foot it all the way back down to the health set. Mishi?
Education, advocacy, care, people. We need professionals trained in the different fields that are necessary to take care of our elders and to take care of the family of people who are taking care of our elders. Like counselors, caring for an elder, it takes a toll
Yes,
on you
yes,
mentally.
it does. Yes,
It
it does.
takes a toll on you mentally.
Girl.
And I know that our counseling unit is already like
Swamped.
So to care for these people mental health who are given care,
Yeah. Yeah.
we need a lot of things.
I had to deal with some stuff during that time, and all I could do is just be there. Like,
for me, giving the physical care was hard, but then when Granny started to lash out on me, and I had no capacity to understand that she is dealing with her aging and dealing with a new level of vulnerability, and we are negotiating her independence. That's why we used to fight all the time, because
that right there, them giving up that independence
she
that
is
they
losing her autonomy.
Correct.
She is losing her mobility. And I come in here like super granddaughter. You ain't got a tongue. Don't do this. Don't do that. Don't eat this. And I think I'm loving her. Whereas
and assisting.
she is feeling like, girl, who you be? Lording over me good life. Try hard, you hear me? She used to say, I is your mother, you know. Like, you know, who you be? And it took me a while to realize that we are negotiating her independence and my love. And the force of my love is frustrating to her because she ain't going to pay the bill. She going town for a sense of community. She going town for a sense of belonging. She going town for a sense of remembrance of her place in the society.
Right. I was just about to say, because outside she also is going out and about, because you realize, okay, I'm getting down. I'm unable to even make it down a flight of stairs. I don't want to be cooped up in the house all the time.
So it was even like COVID for the lockdown.
Oh, Lord.
That was so hard for them. And she would go outside and I would be like, Ivy, like, we have to go inside now because it's like, she'd be like, me afraid you. And me afraid the police, but they're going to lock me up. And it's like, yeah, but they're going to lock you up. You come with so much to do that they can't afford to lock you up. So it was, I would like for us to make our elders visible, not in a performance kind of way.
Oh, Lord.
Like, don't exploit their vulnerability to say that you are doing something, because we do a lot of that in terms or in the name of visibility. But communication, education. They just listen to the radio a lot. On the radio for them.
Yes.
They just listen to the radio a lot. What on the radio for them?
You can't separate them from the radio, you know, because when storm pass, hold, let me get the radio there. When storm passing, the radio by the ear from morning, that's what they know.
You know, and when I realized communicating to that particular audience was a problem was during the Christmas. And my Ivy, she used to like sports, what we call masquerade and stuff, folklore. And to hear the string band, to hear the masquerade music, it's like she came alive, she would shake up because this was her thing. She remember when folklore was king in St. Kitts and she used to parade the street And I was like, but she has something she wants to listen to. She has something she wants to consume. And information and education. When I was taking care of my grandmother for like 2 years, being her primary caregiver, information was like what to get to eat. How this can affect her kidney. The learning curve was so steep.
Wow.
Finding a nutritionist was so hard. And she literally has kidney disease. So I'm like, half of the times I'm giving her things that she shouldn't have. And by the time I realize it,
you're wondering about the damage that's been done.
Yeah. You know, so it's like you're compounding things because of ignorance. Because the information is not there, or it's not there in a user-friendly type of way. It's not there in a way that anybody could access the information and apply it to daily life for wellness. But, you know, like, me just want to sit down here and bash.
Yeah.
Because we have had a lot of support and a lot of goodness. And I'm grateful for the support and goodness. As I said, the church, Ivy repositioned me within in the church. I had a very functional and service-oriented relationship with the Methodist Church. I'm grateful for the people in the community. When she asked for the $5, who was generous enough. The people in the community who would snap pictures and say, I see Ivy here and I see Ivy there, and, you know, allowed me to curate Dr. Brown in the hospital, who became an acquaintance of sort because his care towards her was so compassionate. And I'm grateful for that. The nurses in the hospital who, you know, at the last few weeks, the last few days, when I would just go up there and literally like just sit outside because I'm so afraid to go inside. And, you know, they come and the nurses sit down with me outside. And then they say, okay, let's go now. And so they walk me inside. I had a really good time. I had really good service. I had a lot of compassion. I had compassion from the community. Like the busman would start to say, Ivy daughter, my children, my farm. So teacher, how Ivy? You know, the people I'm in the road. So I had compassion and I had care, especially from the community, and I'm grateful for that. What I would like to see from the ministry is communication, information, and more experts in the field.
Just so that we get the name of the ministry correct.
The new ministry.
Yes. Yeah. So it's aging and disabilities.
Aging and disability. Okay, so yeah, I would like to see more, and I would like to see them also going into the community and using the community as a resource.
Definitely.
Because the elders have things that they want to contribute, you know.
That's true. So it's like, I guess, documentaries and stuff about, yeah. And I see you, well, not, it wasn't with an older guy, but the fishing net and sewing it up. Honestly, I hadn't thought about that. Like, you see a fishing net and you just assume, oh, it's a fishing net. But sometimes you really, really put much thought to it. Like, you know, just how did this fishing net get to be the fishing net that I'm looking at and holding? Like, people here that met them locally, like,
and the you don't around that. The skills around the fishing industry. How do we have a cross sector sustainable development goal? So how do we incorporate fishing in high schools? How do we incorporate fishing in sustainable development? How do we incorporate fishing in agriculture? It's literally in agriculture, but commerce, you know, like how do we incorporate the elder fisherman who knows how to mend nets? How do we create an industry and an activity for him that dignifies him? It's important.
Definitely. Because nobody wants to feel like they're being put down. Or,
and that's how that does feel.
Yeah. Because the community and modernization, I guess, moves so rapidly and moves fast, and we forget to that.
That does move. That literally does move slow. So you have to wait. You have to slow down, because what I imagine is slow for me. Sometimes you look back at the little woman all the way behind me, And yeah, and again, the rate at which we're moving
Yes.
forward is contentious.
Mm.
But when I stand up and I give her time and I lend her strength and I carry her load, we could do it together.
No, we can. When you said that, you started writing about just the little portions about Ivy and stuff like that. Is that what started MCH blog?
Yeah. I know I wanted to write. I know I was going to do the blog long before. That's what I said. I had grand plans for myself, and then Ivy came, and I was like, well, I guess this is what I'm writing about. So I have to write about this. So my experience with her became my content, but it's not necessarily what I wanted to write about. But then writing was a sort of therapy, because after a day, I was like, nobody would believe the experience I just had with this woman. Like, nobody gonna believe. And I did not expect the following either. I mean, her stories were quite generous with creating visibility for myself. So let me write her into the record of history and say thank you. But from writing the stories, I realized that my story was common. And they were just waiting for somebody to say, hey. And so they say, hey, me too. You
Marco
know?
Polo.
Yeah. So you would have had a lot of persons who would say, boy, my grandmother too, you know.
Yeah.
And my grandmother too, you know. And my grandfather too, you know. And my great aunt too, you know.
And you know, the thing is too, I guess in a situation like that, we don't want to seem vulnerable in the society, and like we complaining about these old people, quote unquote, that's what they would say, you know. And it's like, how do I talk about this without trying to make the person look bad, like make my family look bad? Because we already have to deal with, oh, you gotta care for your grandmother that was there and take care of you, and like,
for me, a part of writing about it destigmatizes it. And that's the opportunity when the community gets to participate. It removes the shame.
Right.
Because the elders...
Decades and a half. Decades and a half. Yeah. They're the easiest. Yeah. Just like how even we're young now and people could say, bah, no, she ain't the easiest to deal with. But it's just, they're just people. They're just people.
And they mean it. They mean it and they feel like could say what they want. Oh my God. Could I say what she want? And what I loved about her, which is a gift I wish I had, is that she's very observant. So if you see Ivy, you would think, and you don't know her, you would think that she's meek as a lamb. You would think she's angelic. Ivy minding all your business. All your business, Ivy minding. To come back and tell me, okay? Every story, everybody could pass up the word Ivy know the Psalms, the scripture, what verse, everything. So she had a real sense of community and knowledge of the community because she paid attention.
Let's call it the neighborhood watch, okay? Yeah. That's what it was.
No, the idea. She was neighborhood watch, yes.
So when it hit you that, oh man, like, I wanted to do this blog, yes, but I didn't factor in Ivy in the start of this blog. Like, what was that realization like for you? And when did you, I guess, accept it?
As I said, caring for Ivy is not something that I wanted to do. You know, as much as people might say, oh, God is going to bless you, God, you're so... I did not go across the road wanting to have this goal. I went, I found the situation, and then I realized I had to become responsible. And I did not write because I wanted this in my blog. For the first 6 months, I did not like anything about it. I did not like it. It was hard. I thought God was punishing me. I thought I had enough hard life. Lord, why me? I used to lament. I used to complain. And writing was just the way that I coped with it. And is in creating the content and shipping it. that when the communities rallied around me, that is where I got the support, the psychosocial support, because the mental support came from the communities that said, Micheleina, you're doing a good job. Micheleina, use this bush. Micheleina, I have this for you.
Okay.
So that is where the upliftment came from. But for me, I was just coping. There was nothing saintly about it. I just knew my grandmother needed me and I needed to be responsible to that need on me. But it's not something that I wanted to do. After I got over my ego and got over the self-assigned agenda based stuff, maybe like in the first 6 months, then I started to appreciate the gift of the situation. But I could not appreciate the gift of the situation initially because it's not what I wanted to do for myself. It's after 6 months because, like she had a fall and then you had to bath her, you had to do everything. You had to cook, you had to comb. She here in the same spot. I've never had this experience modeled for me. I've never done this. I am very much a loner. I don't have a child. So to be responsible to give all of this care immediately was traumatic.
From 0 to 100. Real quick. Real quick.
Right? And I was like, I got to love it. I got to appreciate it, and I got to count every day as a blessing. I got to that place. I did not show up being super granddaughter, but I got to it when we started loving on each other. And we didn't love on each other with the I love you, yes and nice. We had a very contentious relationship, but it was who we were. And I realized it was who we were because we would, as I said, on site, we would start to quarrel with each other. And then somebody started quarreling with me and she turned around. When the person come for me, she turned around and knocked my granddaughter up. I said, because she liked me, and of course, she ain't gonna tell me she liked me. But the community that she tell about she good granddaughter gonna tell me, your grandmother. I said, oh,
But she don't tell me these things. It's a different dynamic, a different generation, I guess. And I don't want to seem like we uppity and say like we're more aware, but to some extent we are because we have smartphones and Google at our fingertips. So it's like the more content you see, the more you realize, okay, I can't necessarily continue the behaviors and patterns of my grandparents and to some extent my parents. Like, I guess I would have to be more self-aware and be able to say, I love you in this way and I love you and what's like.
Oh, I told her I love you all the time. I kissed her all the time.
Correct.
To her annoyance, it's not something that she welcomed.
Exactly.
She was like, girl, leave me.
A different generation.
So for me though, I wish I had spent more time with her. The taboo with my Ivy was that I was ashamed of her.
Really?
I was because she had an accident and she was very poor. I'm from a very poor biological family. So the stench of the poverty, the literal stench of it, and then the visibility of the poverty was, I am surviving in my own way. I'm identifying in my own way. And Lord, I can't take on this.
You've kind of moved past that. So
Not moved past it, but it's just too much. Like, I'm trying to survive and it's just too much. And so having to confront myself, because I very much look like Ivy. I'm very much Ivy's spirit. The biological women in my family are very passive. I'm extremely assertive. Ivy is 10 times more assertive than me. So I am Ivy. I am off Ivy as opposed to the other women. Ivy is extremely generous. She is super fabulous, just like resilient and strong and hardworking. And so in herself, that relationship with her allowed me to identify myself. I was able to identify, oh, this is who I be. Because I thought I was an anomaly. I thought God made me special. And then I met Ivy and I'm like, oh, I just like my grandmother.
Okay.
even the scars on my skin, even the moles on my skin, you know, when you're bathing, how you go like, oh, that's where you come from? She got one too. So it was that sort of belonging, that sort of affirmation and being
And revelation.
and revelation, being an adopted child. Identity was always something that I struggled with and had to make my peace with. But Ivy was, as you said, a revelation. It's like, oh, it's Ivy granddaughter. And be so okay with that. Because when I see her, I was that. Me foot hurting me, but I have to go cross the road and something and ask nobody cause me want disturb nobody. I could make it cross the road and then I'll come back and I can be okay. And if you sit down close enough and you're good long enough and I see that you're hungry, I'm gonna make sure you get something to eat. Here, a little $5, no? That she has a very generous spirit. You know, she was very family oriented as much as, you know, the grandchildren, we were apart from her and separated. She was always concerned about how this person doing and how this person doing and call that person for me and check on this person for me. And a lot of them did not experience it from her per se because she had so much limitation. But as soon as she got Michi to help, it was go check on this person. Do that. And so I wish I was around long enough to give her strength and to give myself a sense of belonging.
There's a term that old English geriatric for older persons and stuff, and I detest that word. I hate it. It sounds. It probably has roots somewhere, but the phrasing, I don't know, but
you don't like the sound of it?
Yeah, I don't like it.
Geriatric?
I don't like it.
I like ole, as in OLE, but I think it's very offensive to them. To the elder?
Yes, they would tell, don't tell me
don't tell me ole.
Yeah.
But I like the sound of the word ole, and I like OLE. I like how you look. Because that's how you grow up talking.
That's with Creole swelling.
Yeah. So I like it, but I have to be mindful that it is offensive and don't use it.
Right.
As much. I use it when I'm writing, but just don't call them all. Unless they say it about themselves and give me permission.
Correct.
One of the things I also loved about Ivy was her vocabulary. She had no real handle on the standard Kittitian English.
I was just about to ask, like, how is it for you, like, code switching to some extent? I don't know what your vernacular would have been before having to deal with Ivy. Like, if you would regularly just speak dialect and colloquial.
Definitely. Coming from a very poor biological family, it meant that my first language was the Creole.
Right.
And most of the Creole form, right? We call it the Basilic. And so you have the Basilic, the Mesolec, and the Acrylic.
Right.
Which is different forms of the Creole. And the Acrylic is what we would call the Kittitian Standard English. Because we don't speak England English, we speak Kittitian English. And so, coming from the community that I come from and the biological family that I come from, the lowest form of the Creole was my home language. And I understood that, as well as this is the language that would make my family, my sister, my mother, my daddy, most comfortable with me. I cannot speak to them using this tongue. Girl, where you take up me thing for?
Right.
You know, I can't say, did you misappropriate that? You know, but you know, they would watch me like, who you think you be? And so that use of language, the use of the Creole language signals a belonging to that community. And it signals a belonging to my family. So Ivy having the Creole was again this affirmation of this beautiful sound, of this beautiful thing. And it made me so aware of when I use language, I must function with the dialect because I want to include her.
Right.
Because language can be used to exclude. I get lots of feedback when I write Creole and when I speak Creole in public spaces where people are telling me, oh, he's a teacher. And so you can't You can't use the dialect or you can't use the Creole because people, and you must, and I listen. I haven't had the courage to answer back one yet. And I get a lot. I listen and I say, I wonder if they appreciate that just as Creole or the standard English is an expected thing for formal spaces, it's also a barrier that excludes persons from these spaces. Because they can't make meaning, they can't understand. And yes, you want to bring up the standard of the youth, but what happened to the elder?
Right.
And the ones that are going to use the Creole, they are the majority. And the Creole is all of our language. It's our first language. The Kittitian standard English is not our first language. It's our formal and performative language. But who we are as a people is a Creole people, and we speak a Creole language. And it's okay to be okay with that. I come and say, "Girl, you're humbugging at me head far." Girl, you're humbugging at me head far.
Have these words you wouldn't find in the dictionary, like heg.
Heg. You say heg. Gulang from Cross, yeah. Could you please excuse me? And the Creole has so much passion inside of it, so much personality, so much culture, so much information and identity, and I like it. More important than anything else, I like it, and I like my ability to use it and to code switch to connect.
Correct.
It's an instrument of connection, and we forget that properness sometimes separates.
Right.
And it's all of our spaces. You must be able to move along the continuum from Creole to middle to standard. It's a life skill, I find, for me at least. Yes, I can speak standard English. I have a master's in English. Yes, I can perform the oral language, standard form, but I'm not interested in always being that. And you might be offended by that, but that's okay. You could speak the language you want to speak. And you can represent yourself in language how you want to represent yourself. But on a national or public or formal stage, it belongs to the Creole speaker as well. And it's, for me, it's just power pushing. That's what it is. Power pushing.
And it could also be that instrument of separation. And as you mentioned before Ivy, and you grow up poor and you want to move away from that and stuff like that. Language and speaking
dressing
properly all the time.
Properly. Even the word proper. Proper. But, and I'm grateful for my proper training. I had some of that, sufficient of it. And when I feel like it, I perform that. And when I feel like being Creole, I perform that. And that is who I am most comfortable as, my Creole self.
Right. Having to care for Ivy now, that would have changed clearly your schedule and your way of doing things. Now, from your admission, you'd wake up early to go jogging and stuff like that. But then you also said that you had to wake up early to cook. And the life of a teacher is stressful. Almost 24/7.
Yeah.
Just how did you balance all of that?
There was definitely no balancing. Some things I did very well. Some things I failed at. I went from 30-something years of having abs of steel to when Ivy done with me, like I was like 20-something pounds heavier.
Wow.
Because I started writing more than I started running. Because when I done expend all this energy
correct.
Ivy,
you can't. There's no energy to exercise.
And she was very old school. So she don't understand why I gotta be walking up and down the place and running up and down the place and gymming. It made absolutely no sense to her. So she would be like, "What you doing now? Just come and see, let me go." And she became a companion. I went from being very singular to having a companion and a dependent, which was strange and good. Because I like coming home to her at the end of the day.
Right.
I like centering around her. She was awesome for saying, no, I can't do it. I have granny. um, and I integrated my work in the community around her.
Right.
So my students had to come to Ivy if you wanted me. If a parent had an issue they wanted to talk about after school, you had to find me in
Ivy.
your town because that is my priority, and I wasn't going to jeopardize the time or her need of me to facilitate anything else.
Right.
So she became a center, a stabilizing force, which was, I needed it so much.
And at what point did you accept that? The fact that it took you 6 months in writing the blog to realize, this might just be the gift wrapped in disguise to some extent.
If I'm honest, I can't tell you when.
When did you go from being like, oh God, I have to go buy Ivy today, to
I
being
complain
like
every day. I'm very dramatic. Even when I know it was good for me, I was complaining. I was very dramatic. I was like, she was like content for my performance, my street performance, and anybody that would listen, I'd be like, Lord, I know the Ivy do me today. Ooh, the Ivy, boy. So I was constantly performing skits of the shared experience. So it was like, back in the day, they had this folklore art in Sync. It's called Nigga Business.
Yes.
And wherever I went, I was always talking me and Ivy business. Like I was dramatizing her. Because for me, again, that was a part of my therapy. In Sync, it's in post-colonial modern Sync, it's we have this thing about silence being equated to decency.
Right.
And invisibility is respect. But I just needed to let it off. And so I wrote in public and I spoke in public. And the thing happened where a person started to say, Micheleina, you're creating awareness for elderly care. Micheleina, you're creating awareness for elders. And Ivy became known.
Correct. I would not have known about Ivy had you not posted.
Yeah, and that is a very simple way to write on the record or in the record of history who you are and who your family are, who these people are and who they mean to you, what their contribution was. Ivy, in telling me her stories of her youth and her womanhood, they were very hard to listen to. Sometimes having to listen to her story would shake me to the core, and I'm listening, but Lord, my psyche can't contain it and my body repelling it, and she's just telling her story. This is the life she had.
That was her reality.
And so I made a conscious attempt to rewrite who she was and rewrite experiences she had. And dignify her that way and glorify her. So she became this thing other than her hardship and her poverty.
How did she take all of the
attention?
Yes.
She liked
I could imagine. She went from just being
an old lady
to just
Ivy.
On the street and
she
Micheleina grandmother.
She like it. She like it. She pretending she didn't like it, but she would come and say, "This person stopped me today, you know," and they tell me I'm on the book. What book are I?
Yes.
Some book. What book they talking about? You're always talking me business, you know. Anyway, take this picture. The elders are always like, "Come take this picture here." What picture you taking me look good? She participated. She loved the notoriety. She loved the attention. She loved the visibility. And what my writing and her visibility did is that it raised the status of her in a way that I did not have wealth to do. And so when we go to the hospital now, the doctors will
she's
be like,
known.
This is Ivy.
She's already known.
So let's be nice.
Correct. To some extent, it's well, I guess I can equate it to, you might not have met the president or the prime minister or whatever leader of your country, but you know of them. And if they walk into a room, you're like, okay, this is that person. And yeah. So I guess that's the equation for me, at least. So now your schedule's moving up about, and you say you having to learn about what not to give her and what to give her, and what was that like?
She was a kidney patient. I'm not sure if I'm saying that correctly, but she was a kidney patient, hypertension patient. She was a patient for everything. And so we had to go clinic all the time. At first, I didn't understand a lot of things. I still don't understand a lot of things, but being educated, being to university multiple times, having to understand a thing and go from I don't know to having an informed position. You do that by researching.
Correct.
And so I didn't know nothing about hypertension, didn't know nothing about diabetes, I didn't know nothing about kidney failure. But then I had to learn. And again, I had to go to my community to learn. So I had to go and I had to call Dr. Jensen. I'd be like, Jensen, what does this mean? What is this for? What are we doing this? So I had to go to Miss Weaver, Miss Benjamin, who is a caretaker, and be like, okay, so what happened to her foot here?
Right.
I had to go to Dr. Babu. I had to go and just learn what is happening to her body and how do I address what is happening to her body. Can I address what is happening to her body? How the salt is going to affect her. So yes, she can abuse me and tell me my soup ain't tastes good and I can't cook, but she have to eat the saltless soup because it's better for her.
Right.
We have to cut back on the gravy because the kidney can't process the gravy. She can't drink the soda. Ivy, I still want to drink soda. And so maybe we have a lot of water, a little bit of water, or a cup of water, because when you have kidney problems, it means that your body don't filter properly. So a lot of water is just as dangerous as the soda.
Right. Yes.
I had to learn how to give insulin shots, read insulin, like read for sugars in different kind of things. I had to be cooking constantly. It was just learning how to care for persons in wellness. And one of the things I learned, which is super important, again, is community education. If we tell people, if we practice telling people, Micheleina, if you eat chicken, fried chicken, and soda. If you eat fried chicken and sodas like 3 times a week, every day for the next 20 years, the likelihood of you picking up hypertension or diabetes increases if you eat bread and cheese for breakfast and you drink sodas. Like, I have a small addiction to Coke, but I'm conscious of the consequence. So I went and I got a big bottle of water.
Right.
And I have to stop the community education coming from the medical sector and persons like us who live with these conditions, because through Ivy, I had to be living with the diabetes. It became my illness as well, by an extension of her. So finding the information was really hard. Learning about the information and actioning the information at the same time to a very resistant Ivy, because and after a while, there was nothing that could be done, and the doctors knew this. But I'm still trying because I'm still hopeful. So, the doctors would say, well, you could eat a piece of the bread. And I'd be like, we could eat no bread. And, she'd be like, I remember she would tell me, what I think happened to you, right, is that you want a child. Me, child. You need to go get a child to look after. Furthermore, you is a teacher, not a doctor. So don't tell me nothing. The doctor say
piece of bread is good.
Piece of bread is good.
So I need me piece of bread.
Yes. And she used to say, well, don't go become a nurse. And you like to be in things. Everything you think you know, so you ain't like. She was just and that was the contention in the relationship. The me trying to correct a lifestyle of what she ate that made her feel like she was eating food that was flavorful. Who she saw herself being as an independent woman that could cook for her. it was having to love her after she would have done so much for herself.
Mm-hmm.
I wish I had gotten her 20 years earlier, but then we
Wow.
might have been fighting physically. She would hit me. I think she would have hit me.
Or maybe she wasn't like that 20 years ago.
Oh, I think so.
Maybe, but not to the extent. I feel like over time, just as we change, they change too.
I think, as I said previously, I am Ivy.
Mm-hmm.
And so when I saw Ivy, a part of the hallelujah of being with her for me was that I was able to see myself and parts of myself finally that, as I said, I thought God made me special. I was unique, but I didn't realize I was just Ivy's granddaughter. I resent people telling me what to do. I have my own pace.
Mm-hmm.
I do what I want to do, how I want to do it. May ask you for no feedback. Mind your business. And that is Ivy. So it was like meeting myself in Ivy and having to reconcile that. You know, at our age is that you can see yourself in your child and Lord, that's gonna be it for you. But I saw myself in my grandmother.
There is also this school of thought that you see yourself in your parents as well. And for you, your grandparents.
Grandparent. Yeah, I saw that stubborn. Like I have already orchestrated how this day is going to go. And so for her is that I'm going to pay the water bill. I feel you do not need to pay the water bill because you can't walk too good. You have this walker, you want to walk in the middle of the I feel let me pay the water bill. No. I'm going to pay my water bill because again there's a sort of belonging she's going to get
and independence from being able to go.
Being able to go. Seeing on in this square because she's tired, but because she can also see all of these people and see town in motion. And,
right.
You know?
And colors.
And colors. And just being able, like COVID was really hard for her. For 2 years, she asked me, "We ain't going Culturama for Nevis?" Because that's who she was. Every pan knock she did, everything the radio say happening, she in it. So she was like, "Why you going Culturama?" And I'm like, "No, Ivy."
How was it explaining COVID to her?
It was really hard. I told her people are getting sick and you're all. So if you get the COVID, which is like a cold, you get end up in the hospital and you get really sick. And she hated the hospital because whereas she could temper or I would only temper her independence, the hospital taking it from her.
Yes, completely.
So she
you're in bed, you're not moving, you're not doing nothing, just stay there. Right.
Yeah, so she did not like the hospital. So I would tell her you had to wear your mask and wash your hands, and some of it she studied with me, some of it she didn't study with me. A lot of it she pretended when I came around, say if she see me coming up the road, she put on the mask. Like, you know, that doesn't stop anything.
So we see where we get that from.
Yeah,
The trend as well.
Like, she coming? Oh. She stopped going to the health center though. There was the COVID and vaccine debate that was going on in the country at the time. She took it very personally, and so she took a position that she's afraid of this thing because she don't know what it is, and this thing in the health center. So that was a difficulty that we had, and she was afraid of whatever they give her in the health center, having the vaccine. She just stopped going to the health center altogether. So I used to have to go get her medication, give her the insulin by myself, do whatever dressing she got.
That's when she allowed you to do.
Yeah. Because it meant she did not have to go to the health center. So that was the trade-off. She didn't like me, and she realized she ain't gonna go to the health center, and everything is being done for her at home. And you know, so it's like mobile health care. She ain't gonna be nice to the nurses or pretend it's just me. And that I think she appreciated, that sort of health care at home, that convenience. And when there's a member of your family that could provide care in that way, is brilliant. And I think that is what the health services prefer when the elder or the individual is not solely dependent on
On
the
them.
healthcare.
Right, right.
So it's like when that happens, it's almost as if the individual or the elder becomes a burden on the system because lack of family support. So when I was responsible to duty for the time that I was responsible to duty, because I wasn't responsible all the time, she felt better about it. And I'm sure the system felt better about it.
But then it's such a balancing act because it's like family is you're moving about trying to ensure one that there's something there for when you retire and when you eventually get to that age. And if you're all working, then who's taking care of granny at home or grandpa?
I think the unit is the family unit is so important, and the home care officers, that's what you call them, they are able to come once or twice a week, and some of them help, but I think all of them, their job is to help, but the quality of care is very different because sometimes the training that one would have or invest in personally would be a different level from another person,
Right.
etc.
Right.
So everybody is not going to be able to give you the same quality of care.
Where can we find you? Where can we find Micheleina's product?
So Micheleina.blog for now, and my Facebook page, I think it's MCH Micheleina. Not sure, we could put a link in.
You will.
But definitely my blog is Micheleina.blog.
All right then. Thank you so much, Micheleina, for gracing the set today. And I learned so much from our little discussion about the elderly. Thank you so much for your time. And I wish you all the best with your blog. And you, of course, you know I'm a supporter. I see your work. I like it. I share it. I read it. Thank you so much. It's refreshing to see even just the writing styles and the way how you lay out your Facebook posts and stuff. I look at it not just for what you're talking about, but the way in which you lay it out. And I really appreciate your work.
Thank you so much, Mary, for having me. I appreciate it. Thank you for sharing space. That's very important. Definitely. That we share space with one another to elevate each other. So thank you.
Indeed. Thank you so much. So, guys, that's another episode of Tabooed Talk. If you stayed till the end, thank you so much. Definitely subscribe to the channel and check out our sister content, What the Freako, on YouTube as well as Facebook. Thank you so much. See you in the next episode.
You're listening to Tabooed Talk.